Hello everyone, I am here today to talk about personal hygiene. Just kidding, of course, as you can see by the description, we're going to talk about dictation again. So there's a lot of conflicting opinions about dictation. Some people really love it and some people really hate it. So there's a learning curve to dictation that usually stops people from utilizing it to its full potential. So today I'm going to break down a survival guide of sorts and some tips and some ways to think about it differently that can help get you through the transition. So first of all, why is this important? Why should you even try to make this transition if it's so difficult? In my previous post, which I will link down below, I told you guys how much my words per hour output increased. Since I'm an outliner, I already know what I want to say for each scene, and the thing that slows me down the most is actually getting it on paper. So if dictation helps me get it on paper faster, that means I can get to the editing stage faster and finish my book faster. So dictation solved that problem for me. Now, if there was just a way I could increase my editing speed. For those of you that want to know, also I use the AT2020 microphone and Dragon Naturally Speaking dictation software, both of which will be linked down below. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the art of verbal storytelling, like with your mouth. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years, but what's stopping most people and what's the number one complaint that people have about dictation? Speaking a story is incredibly different than typing a story. Think about how long you've been typing at a computer. For me, it's been about 20 years. That's a long time, and many of you that are watching this will have actually been typing for much longer than me. It's a habit by now. Actually, it's better than a habit, it's second nature. But let's go over the process of writing with the keyboard. The first thing that happens is you have an idea. You formulate something that you want to say in your mind, and then you go on to number 2. So you figure out how to spell each individual word. Even though you might not think that you think about it, you do. You think about how to spell the word, you think about punctuation, you think about grammar, you think about spaces, you think about how you're going to format it. All of those things happen in step number 2. On to number 3, you actually type it. So all of that happens in really rapid succession. A lot of us have gotten to the point where we can actually think about the next sentence that we're going to type as we're typing the previous sentence. I mean, we've been doing it for 20 years, so in all likelihood, we've figured out some shortcuts. So how does the process of dictation compare to that? All right, there's still 3 steps, so just bear with me. Step 1, you have an idea for what you want to say. That's totally the same. Step 2, this is where things get totally different and crazy. You figure out how you want to say it and include punctuation. Note, you don't have to actually take into account spaces or formatting here. And number 3, you actually say it. Did you notice anything? They are pretty much the same. The argument against dictation that a lot of people have is now you have to learn how to speak punctuation. But that's pretty easy. You just gotta do it. Don't you include punctuation when you're typing? It's not really fair to point out a flaw in dictation when it's something that you currently do already. You might not think that it takes any time, but it's still a step you gotta do. The issue that people really have with dictation boils down to what I call type thinking and talk thinking. They're pretty self-explanatory. Type thinking is your thought process as you're typing, and talk thinking is your thought process as you talk. So we've already seen that the processes are the same. They're the 3 same major points, but learning the process is where the real challenge begins of talk thinking. So how do you go about making this transition? My tip is to just keep swimming. The best way to learn how to dictate is to just keep trying. You kind of have to rewire the way that you think about storytelling, so it's important that you keep at it. You are literally learning a completely new skill. It's like speaking a new language. You probably hate that answer, but practice is the only way to get over it. The only way. You have to teach yourself. I can't teach you. I can give you some tips, but I can't do it for you. So think back again to the time when you first learned to type. You probably struggled with it as well, right? I mean, it didn't just come as second nature. Well, now you're struggling with the same process, which is putting words on paper. And the frustrating part is there is no shortcut. The only way to get better is to practice a lot. So some writers are worried their voice, their literary voice, not their speaking voice, will change once they start to dictate. I feel that once you graduate to focusing on your story, that this isn't the case at all. I'll talk about what that means in a minute. So it may be a little bit harder to get into your writing groove in the beginning, but let me give you this analogy. Does anybody here like sports? If you don't, just play along. I got a challenge for all of you. Try to play any sport with your non-dominant hand and see how you fare with it. I mean, it's the same mechanics as your dominant hand, but now you're using something that is untrained for that task. I've done this with bowling. It's not the safest thing to do. Anyway, the same thing can be said for dictation. Any muscular or mental training takes time. So as Dory advises, just keep swimming. All right, so let me get into my onslaught of tips that I have for you guys. Number 1, think about what you're gonna say before you say it. You're gonna have to start slow, which is gonna frustrate a lot of you. So when dictating, it's best not to start and stop multiple times and then shh but because one, you're gonna have to go back and edit that out or take the time to say delete that, and two, it will slow you down in the long run. Your goal is to have your ideas roll off your tongue as quickly as you can. Starting and stopping like this is gonna give you a mental stutter, and it's gonna make it harder for you to actually tell your story, which is what you wanna do. So take your time and think before you speak. Number two, do not pause after punctuation. You are gonna be saying things like comma, period, semicolon, colon, open quote, end quote. I do find that I have to give a brief pause before I say new line, which obviously brings you down to a new line, because my dragon thinks that I want to say new line as opposed to it making a new line for me. But you don't have to pause after you say the punctuation. This saves you a lot of time once you get the hang of it. So roll your punctuation together with your new sentence. New line, open quote, he ran to the door, period, end quote. You can say it literally as fast as that. Consciously try to hasten this step as you're dictating. It'll take some practice, but you'll find a natural rhythm that will help you in the long run. Number three, speak those words clearly and confidently. You want your dictation software to pick up what you're saying. But if you have a good microphone, you won't have to yell. So don't yell. Speak at a normal volume, clear and crisp. I have a really good microphone, but I have to force myself sometimes to speak clearly. As you may have noticed in some of my videos, I slur some of my words together, and Dragon gets confused about this. There are times when my dragon comes up with something crazy and it's nothing like what I said, but it's my own fault. It's because I slurred all my words together. Your voice is now your instrument, so if you feel it wavering or you feel it getting scratchy or rough, take breaks while you're dictating so that you can hydrate your vocal cords, your instrument. I use Pomodoro technique, so anytime I have a break, I immediately go to my water bottle. Number four, only watch the screen when you just start out. This is a habit that you'll end up breaking once you gain more confidence in your speech recognition software, but it's addicting. Right when you first start out, it's almost magic happening before your eyes. Like you have to watch the words appear on the page as you're speaking them. Now that I've gotten accustomed to dictation, I pace around the room, and periodically I'll come back around to my computer and make sure that things are being typed. Not so much that the words are correct though, but in the beginning I will say that it's important to try to improve your speech recognition software. For Dragon Naturally Speaking, this is called training your dragon. So if you say something and your software transcribes it into something that it is not, it's important to stop and correct that, which will highlight everything that you previously just said so that your dragon can better learn your voice. I only did this for the first couple weeks, and now I really have to do it. Yes, this is another slow and agonizing part, but it really, really helps in the long run and helps to improve the accuracy of the recognition software. Number five, be patient. There will be times when you want to shove your computer off your desk or test your strength at crushing your microphone. Dragon will fail you sometimes. I remember reading somewhere, and I can't remember where, but somebody equated your Dragon dictation software to having a pet. Sometimes you love it, and it just loves you right back, and it's cute and cuddly and does everything that you ever wanted it to do. And other times you walk in and find that your dragon has courteously peed all over your area rug, or worse. This will happen to you. It is simply guaranteed. My dragon still thinks that already is arty, like the name arty, which I've read on other forums is apparently a common thing. Other times your dragon might pick up some background noise and mesh it together, and in the end you get something that looks like it's been ran through Google Translate backwards and forwards and back again. Just take a deep breath and correct that. And sometimes it helps to walk away. Number six, focus on your writing and less on how weird it feels to speak your story. So in the beginning, you're gonna be excited about dictation. You're gonna wanna see immediate results and then write your novel in rapid time. While I'm not saying this won't happen, just make sure you don't focus too much on the mechanics of storytelling rather than the actual story you're trying to tell. If you think about it, when you're typing at the keyboard, you don't think shift, open quote, T, H, E, space. This might feel like climbing a mountain in the beginning. Soldier on. This is the Everest of summits, and trust me, you're gonna wanna get to this point. Dictating is a strange thing, so you're gonna end up thinking about it a lot more when you're first learning it than when you will months from now. But once you get there, you'll realize that you've transitioned your energy from stumbling along in your dictation to immersing yourself back into your story. You want this. Celebrate it when you get there. This means that dictation is becoming just as natural to you as typing is. So strive toward this goal from the get-go and make sure that your story is always number one. All right, so for a little bit of bonus information, for each video that I do, I actually have a corresponding post on my website that you guys can go and check out. So if I talk about something and you're trying to write down the points or something, I already have them all written down in my post, so you guys can just go check that out. Yet again, I'm saying more chapters of my novel will come out soon for you guys. I'm back home though. I'm so glad I'm back home. I was gone for 4.5 weeks. It was ridiculous. All right, so I post new writing videos every Wednesday, so make sure you guys subscribe to my channel. And if you ever have any questions for me, or if you ever want to give me a suggestion for another video, you can just go ahead and leave a comment down below. I I love hearing back from you guys. And if you have your own dictation tips to share for everyone, just, you know, sharing's caring. So, bye guys. Here he comes.
He missed you guys, huh? Oh, good boy. Stay.
Okay. That looks so weird.
Did you hear him snort like a little pig?